All right, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. Good evening and good afternoon if people are joining from different parts of the world across the time zone. We have two very interesting stalwarts today who are working in fintech space, and decentralization is very close to their heart. At Z.Talks, which is a part of Zubi, we bring technology entrepreneurs, business leaders, academicians, and top influencers who are working in emerging technologies to share their journey and insights with our students and young professionals. My name is Aman Sanduja. I'm a co-founder with Zubi. And today on this panel, we have Mr. Prasanna Lohar, a top banker, a CIO influencer, and a leader. And also, he's pioneer in blockchain space for sure, and a known face in the industry. Mr. Atul, an entrepreneur on the left, has led the formation of first blockchain network, and he represents Zinfin and doing various activities as a part of trade finance with a blended combination of blockchain. So I would request Mr. Prasanna just quickly introduce himself, what he is doing, and how he has came across blockchain, or how the acquaintance has been very interesting for him.
Yeah, I think great to be here, Aman, and great to see Atul, my dear friend, who has already great start of. I think Atul has started that journey in India, coming up with the Monetago and the first use case for banks, right? So I think coming back, I started my blockchain journey way back in 2015 and 16 start with an aspiration that just to understand what is in my Bitcoin. So my understanding was Bitcoin, like it could be some coin in form of a coin, and it will be coming to the various countries. So that was layman's understanding. And I started studying, and the studying means I started writing some blog on blockchain and on fundamentals of blockchain, what it is all about, way back in 2016. And by the time I ended my blog, so from around 600, so the rate has rise to 2300 USD for a Bitcoin that moment. So that is how I got more interested into this kind of a stuff, which is a parallel internet, which gonna come and really resolve all the problems which we have because of internet, or the problems which are not solved by internet. So I think we look at blockchain as a very good concept, riding on a DLT and riding on cryptography, riding out a secure mechanism, building a very good network of internet. So that's a story for me, and that's how I got attracted towards blockchain. And coming back, we started some banking kind of a mechanism where more than 15, 16 banks started coming together with an agenda. Let's drive something. From there on, I must have mentored more than 30 to 40 startups only in blockchain area. We run a program called Innovation Carnival, where we practice blockchain as a one of the radical agent for banks. More than 2021 use cases I'm working with. One of those with income tax. Recently, I'm working along with Infosys. So I'm part of associated with as a mentor various educational academies also in a blockchain area. At a FICCI, I co-chair FICCI at India level for blockchain and AI relevant, big data relevant projects. And at IMAI, I co-chair for a blockchain initiatives. So I think it's a very good journey, and happy to be part of this discussion. So we'll try to explore whatever experiences we have, and we'll give a lot of knowledge to our viewers and listeners today.
All right, thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Atul, over to you.
Thank you, Prasanna. Thank you, Aman. Hi, everyone. I'm Atul Khekre. And my blockchain journey started with Bitcoin, of course. It was back in 2012, 13. It was pretty much news items that I was listening to. I got my first Bitcoin from OTC Trade, and I got hands on some of the early cryptocurrencies like Ripple, Ethereum, and one fine day it was just fine back then, but then one fine day it just shot up in value, and then it got me more serious. I started digging up more, and the more I kept learning about it, I thought maybe it's time to take this technology mainstream. So I changed my agenda to getting this technology to the mainstream market, and that's where my journey started with India, much bigger market, a much more receptive fintech space, and Prasanna and I have been connected from that time. I was involved in some of the early meetings with RBI and PCI. We used to have it in Hyderabad in the RBI's R&D arm called IDRBT, and we got some early POCs and pilots going there. So it did take a bit of it was a bit of challenge because Bitcoin doesn't really get that doesn't get that kind of perception. But we were finally able to put a production blockchain in place through Montago, where obviously I carried on from there, but Montago is in excellent conditions, of course. And then I landed up in Singapore, where I spoke with Monetary Authority of Singapore and regulators there, and they welcomed me to set up a base there, so I could basically take this to the global market. And that's how we ended up setting up a network which is live right now, which is more tailored for enterprise environment. And I appreciate some of the great people like Prasanna, who have been driving the blockchain adoption and awareness. But for me, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So my job is to get things in action. So we've been able to get a network ready in production. We understand after the banks or enterprises get their hands on their POCs, their awareness. We want to have something that's ready right now for them to work with. So on a global level, we have this hybrid blockchain which is live and up, and we are very much kind of excited about it.
All right, great. So if you look at the last 5 years, the banking frauds have sevenfolded. I mean, if you look at the numbers have increased significantly, and this question is specifically for Prasanna. Look at the cases from Punjab National Bank to Gitanjali Group to IDBI Bank to Lakshmi Nivas Vilas Bank, and then we have seen with the PMC as well. What's happening around in the ecosystem, and how do you think blockchain can unlock the potential in order to curb the frauds and scams which are happening? My apologies. I believe you're on mute.
Yeah, I think very good question, Aman. So I look at what's really happening with the internet and the overall ecosystem as far as this fraud goes. So typically, the 90 to 95% fraud usually happens because of insiders for corporates. So what does it mean? It means that somebody has a clue like what's open, and he gives an access to these malwares or any other trojans or the hackers, right? That's how it happens. So what does it mean? It means that there is no thing called as a trust within a network or within a people itself. Now, if you look at how we can mitigate these frauds, either we have a very good set of security infrastructure like firewalls or web application firewalls or security operation centers and so on. In spite of that, what happens typically, the nature of the networks today which we have is a straight through. It doesn't check in between. If this is a call, let me check this call, let me authorize this call, and let me pass on this request to the next component or a next server. So that is lacking today. Now let me bring on some mechanism where there is a maker checker mechanism. So before I pass on this request from one client to the server or one machine to another machine, if I bring on that automated concept of maker checker, my life will be more easy. Now, say coming back PNB kind of a scenario or any other kind of scenario where man is involved at a branch operations or at a reconciliation also, a lot of manual efforts are involved, a lot of operations are involved. Just imagine, say example, one scenario where typically banks offer or give a contract to the third party service provider for filling up the ATM cash on the ATMs. And what happens, these third party service provider give another contract to another third party providers, and their agents on the ground carry this cash, go to each ATM, and they are advised to put some cash in their respective areas of ATM. Say, for example, that guy is gonna put 1 lakh of a cost in cash in 10 ATMs. There might be some error that he'll put some 90,000 or 99,000 or less amount. But at the end of the day, he comes back, do some manual Excel, and that submits it to the main office, and that main office provides that Excel to the centralized another TSP which bank has allocated. Ultimately, bank receives incorrect data, and we when we reconcile at the end of a year, we see that so much of cash goes into an unreconciled or in suspense account. This is one example where multi parties are involved, and as multi parties are not on the same network or the same understanding, such things are happening. Similarly, somebody coming to your branch and asking to do a transaction, and that branch guy is not on a network or is not in that discipline, that unless there is another guy, checker guy, is doing that, authorizing that, there could be some scenarios like Nirav or something, some scenarios will happen. So I think coming back, it's very, very important to understand the operations which are happening on the ground level in the banking scenario, and tighten those operations with a automated structure or automated discipline. And it can be happen on a web-based application or an automated rules. But if I keep on doing this kind of automation, I end up building another distributed ledger technology or blockchain. So why not to leverage on existing blockchain and build that? So coming back to your question,
I'll come
certainly
back
there are a
on
lot
that.
of
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So you are saying that the stakeholders are not in one network, hence there are chances. So similarly, which has happened in case of Nirav Modi, because the LOC was given to Bank of Allahabad in Hong Kong, and the transaction was happening with Punjab National Bank, and both were not really on the same network. And my question to you, I'll come back to you on this: is my money safe in the bank if these kind of scenarios are happening? Of course, coming from innovation and infrastructure, I'm keeping all the prerequisites from the security of the money. But Mr. Atul, quickly, 4,60,000 credit card details with CVV number. A person on dark web was selling at $9. It's like a honey sitting. It's like a bee sitting on different pollen and extracting a honey out of it. I am transacting with different institutions and banks. They are extracting a data out of it. What's happening? How is blockchain a solution over there?
Sure, that's actually a great example. Now, one of the first problems that how most of the systems are designed today is that all the data, so all my personal data, all the data that I have to, fill in for my, after my KYC, or whatever the bank does with it, it's still stored on some kind of central database, and that's the first point of vulnerability, right? And that's where these systems also, the way they are designed, they've not gone through the kind of intense hackathons or all that. So that's like the first point of vulnerability, and then it's a matter of time. The hackers are smart. I mean, I used to work as a ethical hacker very early in my college days, and anytime we saw systems, banking systems, telecom systems, we saw that the more protected the systems were, the more centralized the systems were, it was more likely to be hacked open. And so there are 2 points. One is having that very very centralized kind of storage of all these data that comes into the banking system or whoever is the institution. And secondly, the way the systems are designed, right? So they're very very private, and they've not gone through intense level of testing as some of the public blockchains or some of the public projects have gone through. And that's the two places where this can potentially be solved, where my say credit card data is my very personal data is actually with me. The only thing that banks is giving me is a kind of authorization for my money or my card to be spent, but there's nothing more available about me in any centralized database.
Absolutely. I'll come back on that of my data security and integrity. Prasanna, India has about 195 people who do not really have a bank account. World Bank has stated 11% of the adults live in India. We have seen the substantial change after Jan Dhan Yojana. But look at this pandemic situation which we are going through. A special challenge for all those poor and rural communities who do not have an access to even a basic financial, access to even a basic financial services. How do you think blockchain can unlock a potential in this kind of a scenario where we have about 200 million population out of 1.35 billion population who does not really have a bank account or an access to financial institutions?
I think, Aman, you asked a very right question for India itself, and I can give at least 30 to 40 use cases where we can really leverage on such use cases in various sector, so that for last mile, the person who is living in a particular village can get benefited out of this. It will not be only from finance sector, but very important wherever we need, or the necessity of a last mile, or necessity of that person who is sitting in a village where there is no electricity, less of water supply, not much of agriculture, not much of earnings. So I think it's a combination of multiple things. So coming back in year 2015, I guess. So World Economic Forum, or they have come up with some 17 sustainable development guidelines. Okay, what does these guidelines say? These guidelines say about no poverty, zero poverty, clean water, good health, good infrastructure, good IT infrastructure. So all this, what does it mean by 2030? If all those 140 countries who are part of this forum, if they really achieve this will be really good for every country and every citizen in a country. So just to start with, if a country who has a very good digital identity system, that's a boon for that country. So Aadhaar being a digital identity component in India, so we always say that we are very much blessed with the Aadhaar ecosystem in a recent time. Just imagine if you don't have an Aadhaar ecosystem today in 2020, will not be that progressive country compared to the US or China or other countries. So at least as a country we have a digital identity, and now if here on we need to see how this digital identity can be utilized in these multiple sectors, in healthcare, in finance, and how it can be utilized by banks, telecoms, and so on. So there are multiple use cases are already there, like in banks,
So
Aadhaar
my
enabled payment
question to you
ecosystem.
is, my apologies to interrupt. My question to you is my data safe in Aadhaar? If I'm doing a transaction
Yeah,
using
yeah.
Aadhaar card,
Yeah, so see, it's a direct question. I will say it's a safe, right? And I will always say it's a safe. Why? Because Aman, it's a game, like in between security, hackers, and the banks or any other. It's
okay,
always a
why
it's
I'm saying this is, yes, I understand there is a lot of a question of the different stakeholders. I checked into a hotel
yeah,
group with a fake Aadhaar card. They don't really have a
yeah,
mechanism to validate my identity. So my
yes,
quick question to you, Mr. Atul, is how do you think or how do you see, like I apply for a bank loan, my bank loan gets rejected. Until unless I ask for papers back, my identity is in the hands of an institution. Here, I'm not really questioning a specific branch or a specific name. This is a general use case which is followed across the globe. How do you think KYC as one of the use cases which we have to do as a part of a transaction sharing our identity can have a better productivity, effectiveness, and efficiency having a use blockchain as a trust layer?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question and something we are working on. So, if you know what we do in TradeFinex, it works on two sides of finance, and one is the origination side and one is the distribution side. Your question right now is more relevant for the origination side, when the case itself, when a loan asset itself is created for an individual, and the way it works right now, and look at how infeasible it is, in current situation, that if someone has to apply for a loan in the traditional scenario, you have to, if it was not COVID-19 situation, you would still have to, carry your physical papers to the bank, and the bank would have to, keep them in their custody, and then there would be a call taken or assessment on your loan applications. What we're doing in TradeFinex essentially is we are tokenizing those documents themselves. So in fact, it's actually a great time to go forward with that for banks and various institutions to trust the fact that I'm letting you access of my digital document, that to be accessed into a loan application itself. And if I want to take the ownership back, I can take that ownership back in the token form back to me, and my application can be processed. So to kind of simplify my answer, it's actually a very high it's the most needed solution right now. Not just because it's a paper-based process and the documents that you're saying are, my application is lying with the bank, but it's more relevant so in the current situation where I cannot even go to the bank, right, to make that application, and there has to be a fully digital tokenized kind of ownership or of my documents that I can submit and the bank can assess, a financier can assess it, and I can have my ownership back with me in a fully digital format. So that's
But I
where.
think for that, absolutely. I think for that, we need to bring all the stakeholders on one common platform or common network. India is a country who experienced large number of migrants from Bangladesh or different countries in the world who come here for work and different activities. Now, my question literally twists towards specifically focusing on what Prasanna is working on. Prasanna, FinTech 1.0 was Telegraph. FinTech 2.0, we have seen Swift and online products which are coming up, online banking. Third is the startups, and FinTech 3.0 startups and financial products, which we have seen PayPal to Paytms in India. What will be FinTech 4.0?
So in my view, say example, I use Ola or Uber, right, which is a sharing economy and one of the entity on sharing economy. Tomorrow, as per study says, today there could be 7 to 8 entities Indians are using as a sharing economy, real estates or co-working spaces, so on. Maybe in next 2-3 years, we'll have more than 300 such sharing economy entities. So when I look at that, I want not only one fintech, but n number of fintechs to be part of that same chain, right? So it's so fintech 4.0, I would say that it will be amalgamation of one fintech providing one service and another fintech providing another service, and the bank is getting both the services on the same platform. Let's say, for example, some robo advisory platform provided by one fintech and relevant insurance is providing by some other fintech, providing on the same super app of a bank, and how it can be seamlessly operated for one same individual customer on one digital identity. That gives an potential that every entity around insurance or robo advisory coming on the same platform. Say example insurance. I want to go for my car insurance, wherein insurance company, bank, identity, the end user, and car manufacturer on the same platform, and I can say that wherever I'm traveling on a Make My Trip or some other app or any another app from wherein I got this car, any other fintech. So how do I really patch up both the things, right? So I think more and more platforms will be collaboration in the future. Now coming back to your original question, how it will gonna happen? So now just like an PSD2 in European or any other in Australia or in UK, a lot of amalgamation happen on a standardization of APIs, where these APIs are shared to this fintech. Similarly, in India also, we're gonna come up with the account aggregator model. So what this account aggregator will do, they will collect all the data from the left-hand side, and all the citizens' data, say for example, SMEs data, will be given to the banks or those relevant fintechs. Now we can come up with a multiple such use case among the fintechs, provided all these account aggregator, banks, the fintechs, all of them are part of a same blockchain network. Just imagine how powerful this ecosystem would be. It's just a beginning as of now. And I think coming back to your original question, where I want to touch upon Bank 2.0. Bank 1.0 is more of operations, more of things where operation is involved, reconciliation is involved. But Bank 2.0 or 3.0, where you will find customer is asking only digital only bank, where whenever he's doing transaction, he wants immediate settlement there and there itself. Even banks also wants the immediate settlement. Even merchant wants immediate settlement. We have seen how Bitcoin works without much of man in middle. Everything happens there and there itself. So bank will really look at such kind of a model on existing regulation models to bring on that kind of a model where they are involving end users and the right side and the left side merchants. It's only utilization of their technology for a right use case. So let's look at that point of view in a holistic manner.
Great. So you have mentioned about banks are also looking for instant settlement. If given a question or given a chance, $100 transaction from India to US, would you do it by Bitcoin or bank?
Is that a question for me or Prasanna? Because you know my
Both
answer
of you.
probably.
Of course. I know your answer. You're representing
So
the
my
space.
question will be,
Your answer would be.
So I represent. So it will be all done in a regulation, and currently regulated entities are bank, and now it's a responsibility of bank how they can really make it easy, comfortable, and instant for end user. I think we are on that path. So what we are at times we mix Bitcoin with Bitcoin is one of the use case. What we have seen, there are n number of plethora of use cases, not only bank but non-banking area, where our lifestyle will go from the next level. So cross-border
Absolutely, I
payment,
agree.
which is one mechanism, we are bound with the one regulation of one bank or one country to the another country. So I think it's a big game, like supply chain or cross-border, where n number of entities have to come together, agree on that rules and regulation, then only it will happen. Now I think journey
Absolutely.
has started. There are various chains like IBM's or something like Voltron by this R3. Things are happening, but they are slow. And I think ultimately it will be driven by customer itself. Customer will say to this bank, "Are you not on this network? That network is so fast." So obviously, internally we will look at all the regulations. We'll see how regulation will be supported by that. Then we will go for such use cases.
Great. Thank you. I'll come back to you on sharing some of the highlights or sharing some of the insights on Ripple. Mr. Atul, India is again continuing to become the largest country which is doing a remittance. 17.5 million of Indians who are living abroad, which is called diaspora, does the remittance about $80 billion. And the World Bank has recently said $790 billion of remittance has happened, and close to 7 to 8% has went roughly on the operational cost, which is about $50 billion. Where do we see the use case of blockchain in remittance? Can I expect some kind of a solution? And Western unions and other institutions which are settling or acting as a catalyst to do my remittance from one part of the country to another are charging high cost, are slow. It takes about 3 to 5 days. If somebody is spending $100, then you end up receiving close to $92. So where do we see the blockchain use case and how it can unlock the potential of remittance market, specifically looking after the Indian use cases?
Yeah, sure. That's again a very very interesting topic. Now there is, obviously Ripple, which is working in this space, trying to fix the problem of micropayments. What we have seen is, what blockchain can do is we can leverage we can leverage multiple channels of liquidity. So let's say if you want to transfer a Singapore dollar to Indian rupee, or say something from Middle East to Philippines, what blockchain can give you is multiple and faster channels of swapping that liquidity. So you do not need to depend on one channel, but you can have multiple price points or channel. In the end, as Prasanna rightly said, the customer is going to drive it. That means if I'm a customer sending $100 to say India from US or Singapore, India, it matters for me how fast I get it on the other side and what is the rate that I get. And that rate and speed, you can't you cannot depend on one platform. You need to have multiple channels of liquidity, and that's what blockchain is good at. It can give you multiple channels of liquidity for swapping of one asset into another, and obviously subject to how much banks open up their fiat on ramp and off ramp channels across these two countries. If that happens, if it was still 2017, where we had a fair amount of exchanges that could provide on ramp and off ramp for your digital assets or blockchain assets onto Indian rupees, or on the other side US dollar or Singapore dollar. That's the channel. If that opens up again after Supreme Court's decision, it would actually see many more channels, making this space more competitive, effectively more competitive for the customers themselves.
Great. So I'll come back to you on some of the questions on asset tokenization. Prasanna, how quickly, I want you to share your insights on how blockchain is impacting lending and insurance space. My apologies again, you are on mute, sorry.
Yeah, so what I heard that how blockchain is gonna helpful for lending in the insurance sector.
Yes.
Yeah, so now just imagine how you gonna lend in a insurance sector, where insurance company and the guy who wants the loan, or if all these entities are coming onto the same page and the same network, it will be very beneficial. In current lending sector, there are lot of manual efforts are involved, since risk underwriting and followed by the multiple processes within a bank. So I think with a lending use case coming on a blockchain, we'll have a complete digital journey of onboarding of a customer on a with a better KYC, and followed by the payouts will be easy. It will be without man in middle, and there will not be much disputes while your smart contract runs on right time, give the payouts and relevant relevant payouts to the end user on right time without much of disputes. I think that will really shape up our existing operational challenges, and that's what I can comment as of now.
Great. So do you see that if you and I take the same medical insurance or health insurance, and you go to gym and you does exercise, you keep your diet healthy and fit, and I, on the other hand, consume junk and different other activities which are not really advisable from a health point of view, and we
Yeah.
both can have the different premiums paying to the health insurance company using a blockchain
Yeah, I think
technology.
that's a
And
dynamic insurance. Yeah, I think that's a dynamic insurance. That model will certainly will come to our life, not only for health insurance but also for car insurance. The way I'm driving
absolutely,
car, if you're driving car smoothly, maybe your value will be at that level. But if somebody is driving rashly, automatically the value will go down. Similarly, for health also, we'll certainly see how IoT or some kind of a mechanism will come and gauge our health status on a regular basis, and accordingly give back this data to the centralized agencies, where on these blockchain based contracts will keep on monitoring and giving back to the insight you have reached to this level, and if you want to reach to that level, you have to really take care of these precautions. So I think
absolutely. I
that's the
think
next.
emerging
Yeah,
technologies will do a combination.
yeah, absolutely. So that's the new thing which will bring on. That's what I said initially. The internet has given a mechanism to communicate, but how to bring on intelligence plus trust? That's what AI plus blockchain will. And IoT is one of the interface, just like a web interface. So I think devices will search automatically. Devices will talk to each other through the networks on a blockchain, and AI will always understand how they have to talk on the right time, and blockchain will execute those contracts on right time. So I think that amalgamation will certainly will see in future, and I think
Great.
startups,
That's
corporates are.
the holy trinity which we call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Atul, now there has been the tokens which are there in the market. You cannot buy a ship, but you can buy a ownership of a ship. You do not really have money to accommodate into a complete real estate asset. You can buy a part ownership. After ICO scams, we have seen FCOs which are coming out. So what is this asset tokenization quickly? What are the advantages, and how blockchain is adding a layer of trust or decentralization towards these assets?
Yeah, that's it's one of the most biggest exploding spaces in the market. So we have had the ICO boom where there was less credible parties or no credible parties who came in and raised a large amount of money, and that's where it got under scrutiny. But what it really triggered was the asset tokenization boom. So we have SGOs coming up. In fact, we are personally in discussion with some of the banks on the international level. What we are looking at is firstly, so the benefit that you get is fractional ownership. Fractional ownership of any asset that you can trade or buy into and still get the benefit of owning it at that fraction. Second benefit is being able to trade it in the secondary market. So because these are tokens, they come into your wallet, and if you're not happy with it, you can trade it back on the secondary market, right? So that gives you much more liquidity, much more investor interest to go and buy into these kind of assets, which wasn't there. For example, if you're buying into real estate right now, it would take you a lot of time to buy into one, and then it would take you a lot of time. It would cost a bigger price tag, and for you to sell it back in the market, it will be a massive process again, right? So it fixes that. It gives you a more liquid secondary market, and it gives you a smaller ticket size that you can come into. It's one of the biggest kind of use cases that blockchain tokens are made for, and we are heavily working on it ourselves.
So unlocking the assets and providing the liquidity from the market and opening up for the population around the globe. Great. So I think it has pretty much cleared my query. So Prasanna, quickly before you step down from this call, is Prasanna, are you there? Okay. Meanwhile, he just fixed his camera and other things. We have been reading about the other use case as well, Atul, that blockchain can disrupt capital markets. So how blockchain can disrupt capital markets? Of course, we understand one is from the KYC point of view. What could be the other use cases in capital markets? One could be the trading of an asset or trading of the utility. What else can be some of the use cases in capital markets, and we see blockchain to unlocking the potential within this space?
Yeah, so first of all, I think the whole KYC, in fact, I was surprised by some of the exchanges that were regulated by in EU, in Europe, by either Estonia or some of the.
Hi, Aman and Atul. I just had to leave because of one call.
Yes.
So thank you so much for inviting me for such an interesting discussion, which is like it's going on and on. So thank you so much, Aman, for interesting questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Prasanna, before you disconnect the call, can you quickly answer on this open banking and neobanks which are coming up?
Yeah, I think that's a future of banking. If somebody has said that banks are not important, but banking services is important, and it's important for banks how they can leverage on the existing technologies and give back this service to the last mile, last device, last guy who is sitting somewhere. So I think that is possible with the collaboration when banks will open up their APIs. APIs will consumed by the fintechs or startups or those service providers, or APIs could be consumed by the some of your devices like cars, smart homes. I think that's what, when your APIs are open, you will need more trust in between all these entities who are the part of this network. So that is why open banking plus blockchain gonna be a very, very good combination in future. So just example, you're calling an API through a fintech. How can we leverage that this API was being called that moment, and this is being sent to the bank? This will be trusted by only blockchain kind of a mechanism, and opportunity is such a huge that what my guy was doing, visiting a branch. Just imagine so many people are gonna visit a bank through these APIs. So I think we need very huge infrastructure, trusted network, and many more use cases will land up on a single API. So I think that's a combination: open banking plus blockchain. It could be used by IoT, ultimately understood by AI. So throw back right insights back to the end users. So I think that's a journey, and are really geared for this bank 2.0 kind of a journey here on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Fintech 4.0 will be an ecosystem. If I owe 100 rupees to a bank, that's my problem. If I owe 100 crore, that's bank's problem. So we will see a lot of changes coming in, and decentralization and trust will play an important role from data integrity and other issues which we are going through. And of course, fraud and scams will curb if we have the mass adoption. Thank you so much for joining in, Prasanna. So it has been
Atul and Aman. Take care.
See you, Prasanna.
Yes, let's stay in touch. Thank you. So Atul, my apologies. Yes, quickly on the capital markets, then we will open up for the questions.
Yes. So the experience that you can check for yourself, the kind of onboarding or KYC, ML checks that happen fully digitally right now on some of the exchanges, some of the newly approved exchanges, which are very active in the crypto market right now. But the same exchanges can use, can actually offer the capital market services eventually. So that's like the fastest onboarding I've seen. At the same time, it's much more foolproof than what can happen on paper. And then the liquidity that you want to buy into. So if say someone from Philippines is to buy Apple shares, he can do it from there. He can do it from a local transfer agent, a fully digital transfer agent and custodian who is based in that country. So you're going to see a lot more, liquidity. The capital markets are all about liquidity. Everyone loves liquidity, right? That's what keeps the market, afloat. government steps in
Atul,
to do that, and that's what the
absolutely.
government kind of provides.
Okay, so it will impact the capital market for sure. Couple of days back, we have seen Facebook investing in Reliance. It is the same company where we have seen 50 million accounts being hacked. It is the same company where we have seen Cambridge Analytica. It is the same company which has been questioned on the data integrity. And the same company is investing in one of the giants of India. What do you see could be the repercussions from the data integrity point of view? And blockchain can be a possible solution. Of course, we have talked about KYC, but I want you to share some of your insights on the repercussions.
I mean, it's a trade-off. Having centralization and decentralization in certain spaces is a trade-off. There are times at which I may be or user may be more comfortable working with some kind of central data or financial custodian, but in other cases he may not be. The moment you are giving that data to someone like Facebook, I mean that's something that they're going to monetize with. So I obviously a lot of things have happened there. There have been vulnerabilities, and they were exploited. So that's, you can't help that. I mean that will go on as long as people are comfortable giving their central data or financial custodianship to third party, where people will take an active decision if it actually hurts them going in somewhere in the future. If it actually does hurt them financially or or in other ways, that's when people will start to look at alternative ways or blockchain much more seriously. Right now some people are doing that market share may increase.
Great. So Atul, I think your company has built or developed where you are representative as a hybrid blockchain ecosystem. So I wanted to talk about what is hybrid blockchain and what could be the potential use cases even outside the financial ecosystem.
Sure. In fact, so we have some of the so we have had a very stable network live right now. We are backed by a very active community of over 5,000, or I don't know the exact number. It could be 10,000. And we have 80, 70, 80 or so of them who run the nodes, run the mock nodes. So, some of the points I would like to highlight from Prasanna's conversation. Prasanna was consistently talking about, getting enterprises to work with it, having all agreed to a single common network. Now, the problem is that that's not going to happen. It has never happened in history, and it will never happen in the future. It's kind of a singularity situation. So, we have taken a different approach. We've given this, we have this network live and in production. We call it a hybrid because it kind of brings both best of both worlds. First thing it does is it's not a totally decentralized one, like Ethereum or Bitcoin is. It is run by trusted parties who stake themselves in, do their KYC. Second kind of approach is, you have, a middleware that can connect whatever systems that you're using into, and they can be, they can interact with other systems, whether across the world or across enterprises. You can use it as a middleware to kind of connect with other parties of the world. So our approach is more hybrid. We're not gone in for look, our network solves everything and all that. We've given a hybrid kind of approach for people to have flexibility to run their own nodes, but at the same time working on a very robust kind of middleware right now, which will which can pull and push or read or write data from other systems, whether DLT or non-DLT platforms, which will make it a more kind of acceptable solution in the market.
Great. Thank you so much. So one last question before we open up for the audience is, what are the talents you are looking for in hiring in terms of at Zinfin, and what is the learning curve for students who wanted to get into this blockchain space?
Yeah, we have, so we keep our eyes on some of the best, talents out there. We are looking for, kind of proven history. You have done something good at scale, especially I'm talking this to students. So, I mean, we understand that not all of them are at the same level. That's why we have a tool called Block Degree, blockdegree.org. That's kind of a decentralized education model, which gets students ready with the basic knowledge that they may need to be a productive kind of developer. But then we keep an eye on students who go through that process and who can work at scale. So we we want to usually, we want to hire artists. So there's a difference, I'll tell you, and this is very important for students. You may be great developers, right? You may feel that you've developed something good. It's not proven until you're actually, making it usable for people at scale. So people have to really, use it, use your stuff. You have to think that kind of scale, and that's the point where you have, the best guys in business are there. That's where you get the best payout. That's where you get, the best uh, positions, and that's what students should aim for. But there's a journey for all this, and we do have some tools that are built for students to train ground up for whoever is not ready. But I mean, obviously our first priority is hiring students or whichever talent which can prove these tools that can be used at scale. When I'm saying scale, which can be used by thousands of people. So there's architectural kind of acumen, or inbuilt ability, or some kind of artistic skill that makes students really build something that thousands of people can use at point time, at a time. And that's the talent that we can hire right now. But there is that journey that students have to go through. Not all of them are ready for it yet, but we do actively engage with students from a basic blockchain training through block degree, or through intermediate kind of internships, to get them to that level where they can actively participate and make it successful for themselves.
Great. So I think growth by any means necessary is yesterday's news. Today, sustainability and execution are sexy. So the lines between industry verticals and product categories are becoming more blurred every day. So great. So students should be more inclusive in learning. Emerging technology is going to definitely pick up, and execution and build products or projects which could have a large adoption and mass adoption from a sustainability point of view. Thank you so much, Atul. It has been a pleasure. I'll open up for questions and then we will conclude the session.
Thank you, Aman.
Great. Okay, so what if semantic cyber attacks on centralized clearing system? Do you think most of the central bank is ready for this scenario? This is by Mr. Ritesh Kakkar.
Well, great. Ritesh is a colleague, and thanks, Ritesh, for asking that. That's actually the point of vulnerability, and we have seen that it's not just the attack, but there are situations like this when we see the services disrupted. When basic kind of fund transfer, or payment and remittances should work really, really fast in times like this. That's where we see obviously the centralized systems failing. So the scenario may not just be an attack, but even a lockdown situation like this. And obviously the systems are not ready for it, to be frank. I mean, there's a lot of the central banks, all the overall banking infrastructure should increasingly take a look at blockchain architecture, where the markets are running 24/7, the settlements are running 24/7, and how they could, and the wallets are running 24/7, right? So that's something that they should really look at to reach the end users, and making it easier for themselves.
All right. So question on the wallet is, it's by Puneet. The Facebook Geo deal may create competition in India's e-payments market, with Geo announcing largest blockchain network. Do you think future of payments in India would head to payments on blockchain?
I'm a bit skeptical about that. I mean, India does have its own, we have UPI, we have IMPS. So we had an EFT first, on which there was IMPS built, and on that now we have UPI. So UPI, in terms of India's jurisdiction internally, where Reserve Bank of India is kind of the risk mitigation for all the banks. UPI is working perfectly. I don't understand how Facebook is going to launch a payment network inside India. What they could do is have some form of interface to UPI, but that would not be blockchain. I don't think that is going to be blockchain. Blockchain is when you have fair decentralization and counterparty risk mitigation by multiple parties. In India, you're going to build something of UPI or an IMPS rails, which is totally backed by RBI. So I don't see how that's going to happen.
Okay, that revolves around again the question of blanket regulation and covering the fences with more stringent regulatory environment. And then this next question is a little tricky. I have invested or I have donated, my apologies, in PM relief fund. Is my money safe or can I have the end-to-end track of it? How can blockchain be a solution over here?
Very interesting question. Obviously, when your money has gone from your, UPI, or you see just the transaction number, but you don't have any hash or something that lets you track where the funds have gone from there. So obviously, I think Niti Aayog, Prime Minister's Office, or even RBI through its payment rails should totally look at adding a blockchain layer at the background where that look, this payment was made here, you get a transaction hash, and where the funds are moved from there. That could be a great use case. I seriously believe, we trust our prime minister, we trust our systems, we trust our administration, and we obviously trust that they're going to make best use of the money that we have all helped with. But at the same time, I think there has to be transparency for tracking, where it has gone, and how effectively it's used for dealing with the situation.
Absolutely. I remember donating in Kerala Relief Fund, and some of the questions has been arise. So definitely blockchain can add a layer of trust, and it's from an immutability and transparency in nature. You can have an end-to-end tracking. Thank you so much, Ritesh. It has been a pleasure. You might, my only the last remarks would be, you might trust your parents to teach you the value of money, but might not want them to manage it. The trust and identity involve multiple levels and myriad use cases. So can there be a global system which can curb and address to these problems of trust, identity, and integrity? Yes. And blockchain has a potential to balance privacy, security, consent, and convenience. Thank you so much, Atul. It has been a pleasure, and looking forward for further interactions and lot to learn from you.
Thank you so much, Aman. Thank you so much, Prasanna, and thank you so much, Abhishek. He texted me saying, there was something that he was stuck with, but obviously we missed him, and maybe next time we can have a lot more.
Agreed. I told him as well that your absence will definitely be felt. It could have been an interesting discussion. I wanted you to speak from a blockchain point of view, where these two bankers try and give the perspective from an institution. Thank you so much, Atul. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Aman.